This week on the Notorious Scoundrels podcast.
All right.
I enjoy that. I think that's fine.
I've always kind of pictured Luke just going lightsaber first through,
Right.
Yeah.
Through a window or something.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Well,
he starts spinning. He puts it above his head and spins so fast he becomes a human drill with a lightsaber tip. And just drills his way through the rock.
All right. Well, clearly we've talked about this too much.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a podcast focused on tactics and competitive play for Star Wars Legion. Hosted by Kyle Dornbos, Michael Barry, and David Zelenka, with Jay Shalansky, the man behind the glass.
Welcome back to Notorious Scoundrels. How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. I played my league game and I got barbecued. And I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about that at the end of the show. But that's been my major point of reflection the last couple of days here. As regards
when you say
Legion.
barbecue, do you mean like spicy chicken combo barbecued?
Nah, I mean more like the range 4 suppression type of barbecue.
So barbecued by laser bolts, not by flames.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
So you were slow roasted as opposed to like just lit on fire.
Yeah, slowly and painfully.
Sweet.
By the world champion.
That's the best kind.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to get roasted,
Yeah, I mean,
slowly over an open
you couldn't ask for a better chef.
There you go. All right, so we are going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about we got some spicy previews from Fantasy Flight on what was that, Friday? Thursday, something like that.
I believe that is when the internet imploded.
Yes. So there was internet imploding, much awesomeness. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Yavin-based Team League a little bit. We're going to talk about there was an RPQ this weekend that Mike and I both attended, and
we did?
Yeah, at Huzzah Hobbies, and one of us won a Worlds invite, and it was Mike.
Was it?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. You had a little bit of an quote unquote off meta list too, and
what is a meta?
Yeah, right. I mean. So we'll talk about that, and we're going to talk a little bit about Han Solo in a Sabine world also. So let's talk about that RPQ first, because that was both super exciting and also just 2 days ago on Saturday.
It was. It feels like a lot longer than that. We had a lot of people there. What, like 18, 20? Something
20,
like that?
yeah.
Yeah. John Brader ran it. He was a high command this year. So thank you, John, for running it. It was pretty fantastic. We had a lot of people, a lot of big names there. We had us. Gordon, unfortunately, couldn't play, but Matt Dunn was there. Darkling was there. Steve McLaughlin was there. There was a lot of people there. Ed Martinez was there. Drade.
Didn't he fly in?
He did. We were talking about it like a week before the event. We were like, hey, man, we got this RPQ coming up. And he was like, I'm coming. I'm going to beat you into the ground.
That's commitment.
It was commitment. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's impressive. Ed's an awesome dude.
So it was a great tournament. I guess I won. So there's that. That was cool.
What did you win with?
Yeah, so I talked to Nerfly from the Legion Discord like a week before the event, and I was like, Brad, I'm gonna do a thing. And I was like, I'm gonna take Vader Bossk. And he was like, yeah, take Vader, because Brad's all up into that. And I was a little bit apprehensive about it because I love Vader to death, but my experience has been that he's just not super great in a world full of Luke, Leia, and here's Boba and IRG and stuff. We've transitioned out of that a little bit, and actually my experience at the tournament was we transitioned out of it a lot of bit in that all of the lists so I was blue player once out of my 3 games, And I played, and so this is actually, I want to caveat this win with, I played limited visibility, sabotage, some moisture evaporators.
Limviz pretty good with Vader.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was running, just so that people have an idea what the list looked like. It was Vader with reflexes, push, saber throw. It was a completely naked Bossk, so he was just running around in his undergarments the whole time. And 4 DLT stormtroopers, 1 naked stormtrooper, and then 3 snipers. So the only upgrades in the list that weren't heavy weapons were the upgrades on Vader. So yeah, it was limited viz in all my games, which is A, really good for Vader, and B, really good when people think Bossk can't shoot on turn 1. Turns out the new ways to motivate them is pretty good because it gets Bossk into the range 2 band and able to fire generally the first turn of the game. So pretty much in all of my games, I played new ways to motivate them on turn 1, put it on Bossk, and the lacked activation of my turn was Bossk running up and scrubbing something out of the game. I think the most notable game was actually my game against you, Kyle. That was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah. So that was our last game. I was running Luke Sabine crisscross with 5 Z6s and jump 2 electric boogaloo. So that was a crazy game. It was Vaporators again. It was.
I would like to point out that this doesn't happen very often, but as red player, I actually voted for Operators.
Yeah, well, your other alternative was Breakthrough.
Yeah,
so,
it didn't feel good, is what I'm trying to say.
You don't want to do Breakthrough against Luke and Sabine. Yeah. You did in fact force Vaps as red player, but it worked out. It was one of those games where. Without getting into too much detail, essentially we traded Bossk and Sabine for each other.
I want to get into detail because you did the stats on this.
Okay. All right. So you did the thing where you did the new ways. So we got limited viz again. And you did the thing where you new ways to motivate them Bossk on turn 1. I had a Vaporator, because of the deployment, one of my 2 Vaporators was not in like a 100% safe position. So I had to basically use Sabine to do it on turn 1 because I knew that I would only have probably turn 1 and maybe turn 2 to actually like successfully interact with that Vaporator. So I got her up there to do it, and then you did the new ways to motivate them Bossk thing to tap her for I don't know if it was 1 or 2 wounds on that first turn.
I think it was just 1 on turn 1.
Yeah, I think it was just 1 on turn 1. But then Bossk was in a sort of like forward position, right?
Yeah. He was close enough that I think he thought I was going to play Reptilian Rampage on turn 2.
No, I figured you would play munitions.
Yeah, so I played munitions, and it was great. Sabine, I think, went to 1 health.
2.
You medicked 1 back, right?
2. I medicked the poison token.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, 2 with a poison token. But then Bossk was still like, even after his free move, because you shot her again also, I think.
So I shot her, I threw the mine, and then moved back up into like the river behind me to give him heavy cover, and then blew up the mine.
Yep.
And Sabine ended up getting out of there.
Yep.
And Bossk ended up living through the turn on 1 health.
So I think I shot you with all of my Z6s. And he had 1 health left at the end of the turn.
Not great for Team Bossk, considering I was out of 1 pips that could activate Bossk first at that point.
Yeah, because you had Implacable, right? But that doesn't help you in that situation. So going into turn 3, I think you played a Rampage and I played Explosions just to win priority.
Yep.
And then I had an Officer Z6 unit that was in range 3 of Bossk, who at this point had 1 unit or 1 health left. And I also had a sniper team that was at range 3 of Bossk, so I could throw the triple dice. So essentially, if I pull anything but Luke from the stack, I can hopefully take out Bossk with either of those things. So I pulled a core token, I activated the Officer's E6 unit. And my choice was, so we've talked before about when you have a must-win situation, even if you have like a 90% chance, for that outcome to happen, if you can improve that to 95 or whatever, you should do that, right? Because sometimes you roll a blank, which is essentially what happened. So I had the choice. I could either aim with the Officer's D6 when I attacked Bossk, and then they would probably die to the rest of your list. But, they're only like 81 points, and Bossk is 115, so on VAPS I'm still up by 30 points. Or I could just shoot with them, knowing that even in heavy cover, an Officer's E6 is 11 dice. There's a decent chance I'll do that 1 wound. Bossk has a shitty save, and then I can back up with him around behind a rock. So this was a poor choice on my part. I chose not to aim. And they got 3 hits, 2 of which were canceled by cover, which translates to 1, right? And I'm like, well, Bossk has a shitty save. That's fine.
Hey, man, look, in the words of Admiral Adama, sometimes you just got to roll a hard 6.
Yep, and that's what happened. You rolled a block. So then Bossk is still alive with an order token and rampage. So Sabine was further back, but still within range 4 of Bossk.
Yeah.
But also in heavy cover, I think, by that point.
Yeah, but Bossk really doesn't care about cover or the dodge token that I believe you had. Did you have a dodge? No, you had a dodge token the turn before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I blew Sabine away in 1 shot.
Yep. Yep. So he killed Sabine, who was worth, I think, around 135 ish, because I was running her pretty lean. And then backed up with rampage, or not with rampage, because you only had 1 wound left. Yeah. So you just took a 1 move. Yeah. So I then did kill Bossk with a sniper, but at that point I was down by 20-ish points. So the rest of the game was like back and forth. Like I would kill a unit, and then you would kill a unit, and then I would kill a unit, and then you would kill another more expensive unit. I think I made the comment. It did go all the way to 6 turns, but at one point I think I made the comment because we were trading so much back and forth. I was like, this deal keeps getting worse all the time.
Yeah.
To quote Lando, that's sometimes how Evaporators goes, right? Like. Because of the setup, you don't really have a chance to actually interact with your opponent's VAPs, and it's basically kill points. And every time it swaps back and forth, 1 player becomes the defender and 1 player goes on offense. It was a crazy game. It was one of the most wild games I've ever had. But
absolutely, it actually, I think, like for the most part, kind of really highlights why I think this list is actually good. So normally, when you're just running Vader or Vader with even Boba Fett or anybody else, you lack a playmaker to really. So when you're running Vader, he's really a control piece. He doesn't really do things on his own, right? Like if you're red on VAPS with Vader, it takes him 4 turns to get over there and actually kill something. By the time he gets there, he's probably been shot at by the entirety of the army for like 3 rounds, and that's not fun for anybody other than the person doing the shooting. But what Bossk does is he kind of turns the whole thing on its head and says, hey, in the situations where Vader doesn't get to sit back normally, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to make a play so that they in turn have to come to Vader. And that changes the game completely. When all of a sudden, in all of the scenarios that you're able to kind of like put down on the board, you can like guarantee that the enemy has to walk into a Pierce 3 lightsaber. He gets a lot better.
Right. Like, Bossk is very good at deleting units at range 4, which means that he's very good at creating, we talk a lot about creating a defensive situation for yourself, because defense is more effective than offense, right? Because you can it's all about action economy, right? You can sit there and aim shoot or dodge shoot while your opponent has to move shoot or move. And Bossk is really good at creating those situations. And when you've got Bossk and Vader, Bossk creates that defensive situation, and then Vader just stands there and says, bring it.
Yeah.
So it's very it's a very effective combination.
He just says everything within range 2, everything that the light touches is mine, and it's absurd. He's really good if you're able to get his value out of him, and my opinion is that Bossk enables you to get the value out of Vader that you ordinarily would not be able to get. Boba Fett's too expensive to really do that effectively, in my mind. You got to drop a DLT unit in order to make that work. Or you have to drop an activation completely. And that just is... You still need an effective list outside of Vader. I mean, in 3 rounds, I swung his lightsaber maybe 4 times. And in the last 2 games, I swung it once.
I mean, technically, you swung it twice in our game.
Okay, fine. Did I swing it twice?
No. I'm sorry. You didn't use Implacable. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I think he threw his lightsaber at Luke maybe once.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually melee you. And other than the one time, Vader and Luke had a sweet duel on top of a U-wing at the end of me and Kyle's game.
Yeah, it was a pretty awesome picture.
Yeah, it was dope. In any case, Vader Bossk, highly recommend people try it out. Vader is a unit that has not seen a ton of play, is what people would consider off meta. I know people are raving about that sort of thing right now. So try it out. See how it goes. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yep. I agree. I mean, having faced it, I can say that it was much more effective than I thought it would be. And congrats on your Worlds invite.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. Yeah, man. I'll see you there.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because we had the we had the inverse happen last year at Nova. So now this is the
I will say it was nice for the end boss to be at the end as opposed to
That's true. Yeah, we got matched up first round in Nova last year. So
oh, gross.
I mean, it feels better when it's at the end. Right?
Yeah,
it feels like, okay, this makes sense. This is fine. I didn't get totally screwed by RNG. Funny enough, the last game we played in a tournament setting at Nova, I was also playing Vader in a list without Bossk, and it was horrible.
Yes, it was.
I believe you were blue on KP.
Yeah, I was blue on KP. So,
no, and this was before the nerf.
Nope,
that never usually goes well for Vader.
This was when KP was awful for red player.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. It was bad.
So this was,
yep.
Okay, that's the nightmare scenario.
We played it out.
That's the turn 1 concession. Oh, I know. I mean, I witnessed that literally happen at Gen Con last year. I mean, it was the Vader player took 6 unanswered wounds, and he's just like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, he was the only thing that survived that game.
Yeah, yes. What do you do? Yep. But as long as we're talking about Vader, why don't we talk about Vader and Luke? David, Rebels have a new dude they can use. I'm going to air quote dude.
They do.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the new dude, just like the old dude, but he's got a new outfit and he's not a commander.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited that Rebels get a new commander option that's not Luke Skywalker. Oh, wait. No, I'm kidding. I'm super excited about Jedi Luke. First of all, the models look awesome, and not just because Luke's saber is not held 6 feet above his head.
Oh, stop! That's 80% of it. Rebel players everywhere were rejoicing in straight up Return of the Jedi fashion. The Gungans are waving their flags and. No. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, Luke's not putting his lightsaber straight up in the air. That's huge.
The music, comes up. Boss Nass raises the glowing orb and screams, and Brian Blessed somewhere far off says, "Peace!"
It's not completely vertical!
Yes.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love the sculpts though. FFG's really stepping it up.
Oh yeah,
Vader looks like he's about to like bitch slap someone with his lightsaber.
Well, that's because that's what he does.
Well, I know, but it's great. It's a great pose for him. So yeah, there's lots of things to unpack here, and like I said, we're not going to talk about all of them, but so it said in the preview article, and this was confirmed, I think. Somebody posted a response from Alex on the Discord just earlier today that basically says you can swap out their command cards, the new command cards, with the old command cards for both Vader and Luke. And if you want to even include like all 6, you can do that. So that seems pretty awesome. I mean, we in the preview article we only saw, I think, the 3 pips, right?
That's great.
Yeah, we saw the new 3 pips. I don't know, man. I look at this new Luke and I'm just like, God, I hope you have a medic. Because that's a lot of eggs in one basket. But his stats are just phenomenal. That's what Jedi Luke should be. I look at that and I'm like, yep, FFG nailed it. This is great.
Oh yeah,
I don't know, man. He's got pseudo 8 dice.
Yeah, I think that's what we mean.
He has no ranged attack, but you could
yeah, man, 8 dice is fine. Everything's cool here. I'm fine. How are you?
Just take saber throw and tenacity and laugh.
I don't know if you even need saber throw.
Actually good. Well, I mean, he has no ranged attack otherwise, but I mean, yeah, you're right. You hardly need it because I mean, he's a melee all-star like Commander Luke.
Yeah, you give him tenacity. He's got 7 blacks and a red. I mean, you don't even need Son of Skywalker. He just kind of deletes anything.
Isn't Son of Skywalker kind of overkill on him? Like, I mean,
okay, this is a slight tangent. Sure. It's totally overkill on him. I think it's even often overkill on normal Luke.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you take a pistol shot as a second attack? I would say more than 50% of the time.
Yeah, or you're just like, you kill like 4 dudes on the first swing, and then you got 1 dude left to kill on the second swing. Like I'm actually not a super fan of Son of Skywalker. I know that's like blasphemy, but just as a Luke player, like, making him do more damage is not like a tool that I want him to have. That said, the new Luke has disengage, so that's a tool that sounds super awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
So stupid.
Now I can save my force push for offense totally and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, or managing engagements, right? Like jump in there, slice up a unit, and then use force push to pull an unengaged unit into yourself, or use disengage to, like if you slice up that unit on your first move action, just use your second move action to jump into a unit that's activated already.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, seems fine.
Yeah, seems fine to me. I don't see anything wrong with this.
I know the viewers can't see me, but I'm shaking my head.
Of course.
Hey, come on there, Mr. Speed 2 Vader.
Hey, look.
You got your wish.
I mean, look, yeah, I did, but that's fine. He's all right. He'll be okay. He'll be fine. You got more dice, we got less dice. I don't know what to tell you.
Speed, except he's speed 2 and he can infiltrate.
I mean, I'm more excited about old Vader being able to infiltrate than new Vader being able to infiltrate.
Okay, well, it's still a thing that comes in that pack.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, this new Vader is interesting. He's like oh my gosh, he's like literally Imperial Luke in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he is, except he takes suppression tokens when he moves, which is fine. I think you can, give himself light cover by moving, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so the thing that makes him speed 2 is spur, right? Which is the same thing we've now seen on, I think Dubaks have it.
Yes.
So essentially you take he's normally speed 1, right? Because he's Vader.
And if you
but if you can take a suppression token to increase your speed.
That ability is already in the RRG. I think it is. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I mean, FFG is amazing. Like that's all I'm thinking. And plus this 3-pip, dude. Both of their 3-pips. Like you mentioned the infiltrate already, but I mean, I'm like looking at the fuzzy text and I see like may choose 2 enemy troopers at range 1. Those units cannot perform attacks. Like that's disgustingly good. I mean, it does suck to have to give up your biggest beat stick to make that happen.
I mean, this is at its best on old Luke, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you give up less, right?
I mean, new Luke is just like he wants to be beating crap in the face every turn. Old Luke's like, there are a lot of turns where old Luke's like, oh man, Vader's going to play Implacable this turn, and I really would like to not deal with it. Well, just make it so that Vader can't attack this turn, you know?
Or maybe like, and now you will die.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's just so many things. It's just like, or even an opposing Luke, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's going to work on Kenobi. It's going to work on General Grievous. Like, you know, there are so many high power units in the game that this is just like, nope.
Yeah. Now that said, you have to time it right. Like you want to, if you want to dumpster and now you will die, you have to actually play it on the turn that your opponent plays and now you will die. It's like a better change of plans, but also with higher stakes, because if you time it poorly, you've just taken your best piece's attack off the table for your opponent, right? So, because there's no May, so they did put the full card text in the article. There's no May on this card, right? It just says, you know, Luke Skywalker gains surge block and cannot perform attacks.
Yep.
The May part is choosing 2 enemy trooper units that can't attack, right? So there's no May to the Luke cannot.
So if you miss, like it's no bueno.
Yeah,
I mean, you still use force powers, right? But you can't. You just can't attack.
When's the timing on it?
Right.
Is it when he?
Yeah,
it's not when he activates. It's when the order goes down, right?
Yeah, it's when he is issued an order, which means that it beats everything.
It doesn't beat No Time for Sorrows.
That's also true.
Yeah, but if those units that you're using No Time for Sorrows on can't attack.
No. What I mean is you can use No Time for Sorrows to get them out of range.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if you win priority you'll win priority because it's a 2-pip.
Right.
So No Time can duck out of the bubble of this card.
Yeah, I mean, you probably want to use, generally speaking, this against something that you're at or close to melee with.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really good when you're like about to die, right? And then like you just play it and then you don't die.
Yeah, I mean the art
against those things that are near you.
The art for this card is him having just defeated Vader, but he's missing his hand and he's throwing away his lightsaber. No, he's not missing his hand.
He's throwing his saber away.
Yeah, he's throwing his saber away. He's telling Palpatine to shove it.
Which is kind of funny because like he then like almost immediately dies. I mean,
yeah. I mean, if I'm pretty sure he would have been a roast Jedi if Vader hadn't intervened.
Palpatine was farther away than range 1.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Palpatine was at range 2. So
he starts up the stairs, right? He's range 2.
Whoever was playing Luke that day, like, just wasn't thinking.
Yeah, he botched it.
Thought Vader was going to come back with Implacable instead of getting lightning.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. You guys got anything more to say about this?
No, I'm pumped. You know, this is going to be a third Vader sculpt I have, so that'll be dope. Can interchange them at will because I puked money on a Celebration Vader. Damn you, eBay scalpers. But yeah, and I do think that new Luke is cool, but I do think that it is insanely important to some degree that Luke has an alternate sculpt that isn't trash. From a gameplay perspective.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so that brings up an interesting question, right? Like, if you want to use the new Luke sculpt as Commander Luke, like, is that allowed?
I hope so.
I don't know. I hope so too,
like,
but I don't know.
Ask your TO.
Yeah. I mean,
default.
obviously that's not a question we have to worry about just yet, but that's certainly a question that I have, not only because his lightsaber's down, but also because he looks much better.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to that is like, to some degree, like, should you be using the Vader's or Luke sculpt that goes with the cards so that your opponent more readily knows what it is? There's something to be said for like being able to look at the table and know what's going on quickly.
Right. Yeah, like people have brought this up with regard to ATRTs, right? Like, do I need to have the correct, quote unquote, correct weapon on my ATRT? And I think the official stance is no. But for me, it's always super, like, even if you know at the beginning of the game that, okay, these ATRTs have rotaries, but if they're equipped with flamers on the table, it's a chance that when you're making snap decisions in the middle of the game, you're just looking at the model, you're going to be like, oh, that ATRT has a flamer. Like I could see, if I'm using Jedi Luke model as a Commander Luke, I could see my opponent, even though I've got the Commander Luke card on my sidebar, in the middle of the game, making a snap decision and being like, oh, this Luke is going to be able to disengage, when in fact he can't. So yes, I think there's definitely something to be said for, they call this in other miniatures games, what you see is what you get. Having the thing on the table match what you actually have, rather than just saying at the beginning, oh, that's Commander Luke, even though he looks like Jedi Luke.
Generally,
we'll see what the, obviously for casual games, it's not going to matter, right? Like if you're just playing in your garage, who cares? But for a tournament, I think probably we'll need some kind of like official stance on this.
Please let them be swappable. That's all I have to say.
Yep, I agree.
Same here.
All right. So that is the new hotness. We've got a couple other topics on here, but I think we probably only have time for one or two more. Do you guys want to talk about objective overhang real quick?
Sure.
So
let's do it.
This happened in my first game. So we've talked previously about base to base and what is base to base, right? Like this came up in my Invader League game with Kingsley, where Bossk was on top of a box. That's like a tongue twister. Box. And Davis wanted to melee him with Sabine, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. Clearly, like there's not space for her on top of that box, but she can physically touch him, right? Like Sabine's hip could touch Bossk's base, right? So it's like, okay, that's fine. But at least according to rules as written, that's not base to base. Well, apparently this matters with objectives also. So in my first game, we were playing Recover Supplies, and I placed one of my boxes on, it was like a ledge. And apparently the ledge was like slightly sloped. So the objective token stayed there, but when I tried to put a model on that ledge to claim it, because it was slightly sloped and because my dudes have washers on the bottom that are smooth metal, they slid off. So they could not actually balance on the ledge. So my opponent's like, well, you got to be able to place a model there to claim it. And I was like, all right, let's just call a judge. So we did, and John was running this event, and he went to the RRG, he went to Facebook. I think I made the right call, at least by rules as written, in saying that you do have to actually like base to base an objective token to claim it. But at the same time, this brings up an interesting question, which is, can you place an objective token in a place that is unclaimable? And if the answer is yes, does that bring up other issues?
Are you asking us?
Yeah.
I think the answer is, I think that's totally okay. I think that the scenario that you're describing is a lot grayer than that.
Because it appeared that it would be claimable when I placed it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that we're talking about a slope that's like 30 degrees or something.
It was probably less than that. It looked flat.
Yeah,
obviously it wasn't, but it looked flat.
So, and I don't know, like in that situation, like I guess I would say refer to our last episode.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. But I think overall, the fact that objective tokens can be placed in unclaimable positions is fine. I think that there are lots of situations where you might want to put a token in a place that like only Sabine or Boba can get to, which is a little bit different than what we're talking about, but not that outside of, I mean, like in a lot of the situations that would be unclaimable, I imagine Boba Sabine can solve to some degree, as long as you can balance them.
Right. Well, and I think if there is an edge case where this could be a problem, it's on Vaporators. Because you can hedge out a reasonably large area since it's range 2 for VAPs, and range 1 from deployment zones. In theory, if you placed like an unclaimable VAP, on certain deployments, like maybe Long March or Major Offensive that hedge out a significant portion of the map, you could create a situation where your opponent is forced to place one of their 2 VAPs like near to you. But I think that's super edge case, and I think generally the fact that you're usually placing your own quote-unquote safe objectives, there's not really an incentive to place an objective in a place that is unclaimable. So,
right, this is the question that was on my mind going into this discussion, was like, well, who actually benefits from putting this in a unclaimable place? And like you mentioned, the Vaporator thing where you're forcing your opponent's Vaporator to the open, but it seems like a bit of a wash just because you're making things harder for yourself to make life harder for your opponent. And I guess in some situations that's good, but it seems to me like, why would I give up ease of scoring 2 points, just for this, putting my opponent in the open and then having to kill his army and forcing an engagement? It just doesn't seem correct to me. And then on recover, of course, you're placing your own objective, so why would you want to make it harder for you to claim your quote-unquote safe objective?
And generally I agree that there's not like an incentive to do this on purpose. But obviously there are situations that can be created where you do it sort of by accident, and I could see that creating some problems. It didn't end up mattering in this game because I got the mid-box, but at least I can say for myself personally, like whenever I put an objective on the table, if it's anywhere that's not obvious that I can put a model there, I'm going to try and like balance a model next to it to make sure I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the easiest kind of way to make yourself safe from getting attacked by this. I mean, I think that there's probably some corner cases where if your opponent was savvy enough, like on Long March, they could drop an unplaceable Vaporator close to your deployment zone, so they had to drop their Vaporators closer to your deployment zone, so the unplaceable ones are closer to them than you. But that seems kind of corner casey.
Yeah, that seems super situational.
But
so maybe
go ahead.
I was going to say, just maybe the lesson here is just make sure when you're placing objectives that you're putting them in places that you can definitely claim.
Yeah, I feel like I saw on Facebook a similar question. I don't think it was your game that was being highlighted, but there was an objective token on steps, and it was like overhanging the step, I think. And like the objective token was like not like fully on a piece of terrain, and I don't know the explicit reading of what you can and can't place objective tokens on because I don't have the RG in front of me, but it seems to me like don't put your stuff in places that are questionable.
Yeah, so we looked this up, the only rule about objective tokens relative to terrain is you cannot place them underneath terrain. So
let's just for the sake of like you couldn't put it in a cave.
I mean, I think it means like, well, so it literally just says you cannot put them underneath terrain.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm bringing up.
Yeah. To me, that says like, you can't like lift up a terrain piece and put it underneath, but I guess you can interpret it to say like if you have an overhang or something, you can't put it under that overhang, I guess. It's an interesting question.
I mean, that's what it literally says,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very interesting question.
Well, if you could do it in such a way that a model couldn't legally touch it, I guess that's not good.
I guess my point is, so the RRG appears to specifically prohibit at least that instance of putting it in a place where a model cannot legally touch it, but there are other ways that you could place them where a model can't legally touch it, but the placement is still legal. So the question is that a problem? And I think we've reached the conclusion that the answer is probably no. At least with the current objective cards that we have.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's just part of your strategy? Like, what if you obviously you don't come to the table probably thinking like, I'm going to mess my opponent up with this trick I know. But, if you see it, if you see the opportunity there, it's just another tool in the toolbox. And also, a lot of that I think has to do with table design more than anything that this situation would arise.
Yeah, it's maybe someone out there will prove me wrong, but I think that it's super narrow. I think that maybe you would use it in like 0.01% of your games if like the terrain would have to be really just right, and you'd have to be playing something like Long March for this to be relevant, I think.
But to address the RRG, I'm actually kind of okay that it's agnostic about this sort of thing. And I have a feeling that's deliberate from things I've heard Luke Eddy say about how terrain is defined in the rules reference guide, is that the rules writers wanted to encourage a maximum amount of creativity in the construction of terrain pieces and boards. And so they were trying to give strong suggestions and not hard guidelines on those subjects. I've heard this both from Luke and Alex. So great.
And actually, just reading it now, the thing about placing things under terrain is for condition tokens, not objective tokens.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I think you still can't move the terrain on the table, so I don't think you could like lift up a piece of terrain and put an objective token underneath one. But it's interesting. It's interesting that it even says that for condition tokens.
Well, I mean, I think that maybe they were thinking about picking up terrain pieces and putting them under them, but I assume that they mean that you cannot place it under a piece of terrain that has some sort of horizontal.
Yeah, and I guess if that's the case, like, what's the point of that rule?
Well, I mean, condition tokens in the game right now are what? Mines? Right, so it would make sense that a mine can't blow up something that's like above it on the like if it's in a cave, right? It's not gonna. It shouldn't be placed because like technically rules is written like if the mine token. Do you have to have line of sight to the mine token for it to blow up? All right, well, never mind then. I'm just spouting.
Yeah. I
don't know. I don't have a good.
I mean, right now you can Luke or Bubba or Sabine can jump through a cave, the top of a cave, technically, right now. But well, that's a whole nother thing. All right.
I enjoy that. I think that's fine.
I've always kind of pictured Luke just going lightsaber first through,
Right.
Yeah.
Through a window or something.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Well,
he starts spinning. He puts it above his head and spins so fast he becomes a human drill with a lightsaber tip, and just drills his way through the rock.
All right. Well, clearly we've talked about this too much.
Yeah.
So, do you guys want to table Team League and Han in a Sabine world until next week?
I'll just do a really fast Team League. Will take 5 minutes. I played Luke Cook. Luke Cook's really good. Disarray is strong for Death Troopers and Guards. Did not spend enough time reading the table, and I paid the price. Turns out Death Troopers, anchored by a token unit of guards with emergency stems and backed by 2 medics, is really, really strong. So is split firing with Bossk to make sure that every single one of your opponent's Courage 1 core troops is double suppressed going into the second round of the game. possibly on top of Annihilation Looms, which thankfully I played Jedi to get rid of that, but it wasn't enough to protect me from what Luke Cook was dishing out, the kind of heat that came my way. Death Troopers backed by guards are also really good at funneling Sabine's explosions. Explosions is generally a good card, but it can really fail against high save Imperials. Just because it's kind of a low quantity of dice, and Death Troopers, have a 66% chance to save. And even if they, even if you didn't want to even risk them saving, you can just put it on a guard. Like say you get a double hit off explosions, well, he puts it on a guard and maybe even puts it on the guard's E-stims to keep it from losing strength during the round. I'm not jelly, man. I mean, this list is legit, and I'm telling people they should try it because it is sniper free. So if you hate snipers, go play DTs and guards because it's super strong. I mean, I've had my butt kicked by lists like this before, but like an even greater commitment where it's like a unit of guard is babysitting a Death Trooper, and because you have Krennic, you have 4 special forces. So it was like Death Trooper guard, and they run as like a super unit together, where you've got the guards as health funnels / given the melee beatdown against things the Death Troopers would shoot, or the things that would try to get in melee with the DTs. But I guess my overarching point here is that if you want a quality list, I mean, that's your quality list. You've got Death Troopers Dish the suppression. You got Krennic to make it even worse. You've got Deploy the Garrison when rebels try to jump into you. You've got a Voracious Ambition to automatically win a 1-pip toss-up turn, like, for example, Voracious versus Son of Skywalker or versus Explosions. There's a lot of excellent tech embedded in that list. And, so, I definitely encourage people to try it. But the only other thing I'll say about the league is there's going to be, by the time you hear the sound of our voices, there'll be an article out about the next round, because the next round is starting. And we can talk in more detail about the results of the first round on the next time we talk. Yep. Short and sweet.
All right, you guys got any other final thoughts?
Sometimes,
good, man.
Sometimes you just got to embrace dice chaos. Sometimes you got to look for your outs. Sometimes you just got to roll a hard 6.
Yep. And Vader's still good.
He's very
Don't let the haters say otherwise.
All right. And he's getting 3 new command cards, so,
It's gonna be awesome.
Yep.
Bring a medic. You need it.
Medic! All right.
Yeah.
We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
And I'm David.
We will see you next week.
Join us next week for another episode of the Notorious Scoundrels.
This has been a 5th Trooper production.